Hello guys. Today we are going to explain a story about how a 90-year-old man became a drug mule inspired by a true story. Without further ado, let's dive into it. The story starts in Peoria, Illinois, with a sweeping shot of a lush, picturesque daylily farm owned by Earl Stone, a 90-year-old horticulturist who has a passion for growing and crossbreeding flowers. Earl has a legendary reputation in the world of daylilies, and his presence charms everyone around him. He earns numerous awards and accolades every year. This year, he receives the Lifetime Achievement Award for his work. However, his dedication to his beloved flowers comes at a significant cost: his relationships with his family. He often misses important family events like his daughter Iris's remarriage ceremony. His ex-wife Mary knows that he always prioritizes his work over his family and tries to comfort Iris. Meanwhile, Earl throws a party at a bar to celebrate his award. It's 12 years later, and internet flower businesses have left Earl in financial trouble. He packs all his belongings into his old beat-up truck and arrives at his granddaughter Ginny's pre-engagement brunch. Ginny warmly welcomes him, and it becomes clear that she has always admired her grandpa, as she has kept all the cards he has given her over the years. However, as soon as Iris sees him, she departs with bitterness due to his consistent absence from her life. Mary, too, still carries resentment for his neglect and realizes that Earl is there looking for a place to live when she spots all his belongings in his truck. She hands over a wedding gown to Ginny and leaves. This situation underscores how disconnected Earl has become from his family's lives. As he gets ready to leave, one of Ginny's dubious friends hands Earl a business card, and he tells Earl that he knows someone who's currently hiring drivers. The pay is good, and there are no questions asked. Although Earl feels hesitant initially, he eventually arrives at the specified location, which is a garage. In the garage, a group of Mexican individuals puts a duffel bag in the back of his truck and gives him a cell phone. They tell him not to use the phone but to answer it any time, day or night. They also emphasize that he must not check the bag's contents. His sole responsibility is to park the truck at the designated location and come back after an hour. And when he returns, he'll find the money in the glove compartment of the truck. Taking all the instructions, Earl drives away from the garage in his vehicle with the duffel bag. Meanwhile, over at the Chicago DEA, Warren Lewis welcomes a new and highly promising agent, Colin Bates. Bates comes with a reputation, having already made a name for himself in some major cases in New York and D.C. He's paired up with Agent Trevino, and they begin their mission to track down and apprehend drug dealers. Their first step is to find an informant for themselves. On the other hand, Earl arrives at his destination and follows the instructions he was given. When he returns after an hour, he discovers an envelope filled with cash in the glove compartment. Bates and Trevino approach Luis, asking him to become their informant. If he refuses, they threaten to obtain a warrant to search his house. Eventually, Luis agrees to cooperate as their informant. Earl pays for his granddaughter's wedding, where Mary and Iris remain distant. Mary tells Earl it will take some time and effort. Instant acceptance won't be possible. Later, he visits his farm, where he notices a foreclosure notice posted at the front. Soon after, he buys a new truck and returns to the garage for another job. He completes the task and receives payment. Subsequently, he goes to the bank and reclaims his farm from foreclosure. He then visits the VFW, a place for Korean War veterans, only to discover that it has been devastated by a fire. A volunteer mentions the need for donations to repair it, eyeing Earl's new truck. Earl decides to make another run, but this time he becomes suspicious of the bag and decides to check it. When he opens the bag, he is taken aback as it is filled with cocaine stasias. Suddenly, a policeman appears, but Earl manages to elude him by claiming that he is on his way to deliver pecans to his niece. Soon, Earl donates a significant sum to the VFW, prompting them to repair the place, and they host a grand reopening celebration in his honor. Earl is celebrated as a hero within the community. The cartel takes notice of Earl's unique profile as an older man and sees him as the ideal candidate to avoid scrutiny from law enforcement. They entrust him with a high-stakes assignment valued at $2.7 million, with Julio overseeing the operation. As Earl embarks on his run, he begins to savor the excitement of the open road and the newfound financial stability it brings. However, Julio becomes increasingly frustrated with Earl's unconventional working methods and reports his concerns to his boss, Latan. Lawton advises Julio to trust Earl and let him carry out his duties as he sees fit. Meanwhile, Luis contacts the DEA to report Earl as a new drug courier, referring to him as El Tata. He further tells that El Tata has transported more drugs than any other carrier and that he uses a black truck. Earl's relationship with Julio begins to evolve, especially after Earl helps Julio escape from a local police officer. Bates informs Warren about El Tata and mentions that a phone tap has suggested El Tata is scheduled for another drug delivery. Bates seeks Warren's permission to apprehend the courier, and Warren grants it. Local police initiate a search for the black truck. However, Earl manages to elude the authorities and becomes the first to deliver a 282-kilo load in a single run successfully. This achievement leads to a meeting with Lawton at his villa, where Lawton throws a party in his honor. Soon after, Earl makes an effort to bridge the emotional gap that has separated him from his loved ones for years, attending Ginny's graduation ceremony as a gesture of reconciliation. On a different note, Gustavo kills Leighton, assuming his position and enforcing more stringent rules. Earl chooses to mend the emotional divide that has kept him apart from his loved ones for years, deciding to attend Ginny's graduation ceremony. While Iris remains distant, Mary is beginning to show signs of warming up. However, Mary has also developed a troublesome cough. In the meantime, Gustavo eliminates Latan, stepping into his role and implementing even stricter regulations. Gustavo confides in Julio, emphasizing the need to tighten their grip on Earl rather than allowing him the freedom to wander during his drug runs due to the significant amount of money involved. They issue a dire threat to Earl, warning him of dire consequences if he fails to adhere to the rules. Unable to protest, Earl prepares for his next trip and heads to the garage. On the other side, Bates becomes aware of the routes and devises, a plan to go undercover to apprehend the courier known as El Tata. Following their strategy, Bates tirelessly searches for the black truck, but struggles to locate Earl. Fortunately, he receives a call from Luis, who informs him that El Tata has obtained permission to stay at a motel. Bates promptly arrives at the motel, but gets confused due to Earl's age and detain another guy. He again encounters Earl early in the morning. During their interaction, Bates realizes it's his anniversary, prompting Earl to advise him not to overlook such important family dates since Earl has always been doing this. He further talks about his daughter's behavior towards him, and they are not on talking terms since 12 years. Before setting off on his next run, Earl receives a call from Ginny, who informs him about Mary's declining health. She implores him to visit, but he refuses, citing his tight schedule. Ginny disconnects the call, feeling disheartened. Realizing that this might be his last opportunity to mend things, Earl decides to return home to be with Mary. Meanwhile, both the DA and the Mexican cartel are in a state of panic because Earl has disappeared from their radar. The cartel contemplates taking drastic measures, including the possibility of killing him. Earl remains by Mary's side and honestly reveals how he's been earning his money. However, she finds it hard to believe and reassures him that wealth isn't necessary to be a part of their lives. Iris starts to warm up to Earl as he continues to support his ex-wife during her final moments, staying by her bedside until her passing. He also attends her funeral. Iris extends an invitation to Earl to join the family for Thanksgiving dinner. Afterward, he resumes his drug delivery run. The individuals who were assigned to track Earl spot his truck and tail him to a truck stop where they assault him. They find the flyer from the memorial service and come to understand that Earl had a legitimate reason for his disappearance. However, their new leader holds a different perspective. Initially, he insists on having Earl eliminated. However, they advocate for Earl's case. In response, Gustavo warns them that their own lives will be at stake if Earl fails to complete the delivery. On the other hand, Bates has been listening to this conversation and orders his team to use GPS to track the Mule down. They identify Earl's truck, leading to his eventual apprehension and arrest. Bates is taken aback when he sees it is Earl. They again engage in a conversation about the significance of family, and Earl confesses that he's grateful for the time he spent with his wife. During the trial, Earl's attorney tries to portray him as a financially struggling war hero who was driven to provide for his family. However, Earl interrupts her and pleads guilty to all charges. His daughter and granddaughter share emotional moments with him. Iris remarks, "At least we'll know where to find you." The movie ends with a contemplative and moving scene of Earl caring for his daylilies in prison, serving as a symbol of his rekindled bond with his family and the profound beauty of life. And as always, share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. Until next time, keep seeking the beauty in life's garden and nurturing the bonds that matter most. This is Film Flicks Recaps, signing off. Feel free to check our other videos.